All right, you're watching TVC Breakfast, and it's time to take a look at the stories making the headlines in the Nigerian newspapers today. That is Boxing Day, and I have with me in the studio a lecturer of the University of Lagos, Dr. Dan Ekere. Thank you so much for joining us. And I also have an in-house analyst, Obani Akinwale. Thank you so much, gentlemen, for joining us today, and compliments of the season. First of all, I'd like to ask, how was your Christmas?
Beautiful. We are here. The usual. You know.
Did you have the rice, chicken, turkey thingy?
Yeah, I've always had it. You know,
All right, so let's delve into what we have on the Nigerian newspapers this morning, which is Boxing Day. And we're going to be starting with the blueprint. And the blueprint has as its headline, "In Biu, troops foil Christmas attack, kill 48 insurgents, arrest 3. And as a writer, it has Boko Haram slays 6 in Chibok, abducts 2 women. That's what you find on the Blueprint newspaper. And let's look at the Daily Times. The Daily Times has a different headline. It says, "I hold no grudges against Buhari," says Dasuki. It says, "I'm ready to defend myself against allegations of money laundering graft." That's what you find on the development story concerning the detention of Mr. Sambo Dasuki. Of course, it was released a day before Christmas, which a lot of persons have said that it's an early Christmas gift from the presidency to Nigerians or to the families of these persons. Moving on to the Daily Trust. The Daily Trust has 60 years after 40 megawatts Dadin Kowa Hydro power ready for inauguration. You have a very interesting picture there on the Daily Trust. You would like to read that up if you pick up the Daily Trust newspaper. But we're going to be looking at what we have on the Daily Times newspaper, which says, "I hold no grudges against Buhari," says Dasuki. And it's also saying he's ready to defend himself against allegations of money laundering and graft. Mr. Obani, let me start with you. Christmas came early for the Dasuki family. A lot of persons have said that, okay, the presidency, it was right or apt for them to obey the court orders concerning Showore and Mr. Dasuki. What are your thoughts, first of all, considering the timing that the presidency released these persons?
I'm not sure we celebrate the right thing in this part of the world. I think what we're supposed to be doing now is to be flogging APC government, flogging the presidency. I expected the Legal Privilege Council to have withdrawn the sanction of the Attorney General of the Federation. Every SAN member on the cabinet, I'm expecting that their license of practice should have been withdrawn by now. This man has been granted, bail application has been granted repeatedly by the Federal High Courts in Nigeria, was granted by ECOWAS Court, was granted even by a court of appeal in Nigeria. Yet the Nigerian government, which paraded the likes of human rights activists in person of Festus Kiyamo, who has the likes of Professor Yemi Oshibajo, Mr. Abatunde Fashola, a couple of them are SAN, sitting at the executive chamber, flout the law daily. Again, you ask yourself, where are the activists like Mr. Femi Falana? Or you ask yourself that, where is Mr. Tunde Bakare Voice of Save Nigerian Group? Sincerely yours, there is absolutely nothing to celebrate. Sincerely yours, what the presidency has just done, it's just like I said, they have a strategy of taking over the media. You know, Christmas is in the air, the 7.5 tax is coming very soon, the ASU IPPS is coming in very soon. So for you to distract our attention, it's just this Dansuki stuff. And again, Dansuki, for me, Dansuki is not the central bank governor. Dansuki is not the person that releases the money. And as we speak, we know the operations of the NSA and the NIA. They are discrete operations, and now they are covert operations, so to say. So for me, for us to probe Dansuki properly, we need to probe the CBN that released the money, because he doesn't have a money mint in his house. We have to ask the presidency then, what are the money meant for? And we need to even ask now, the money that the presidency has, about 1 trillion was borrowed for security. Have we been able to account for that 1 trillion? The 300 million that was taken from Abacha loot for the NSIP, is anybody being probed for that? So all these, the newspaper headline now, what have you, that the president is trying to say, for me, it's too late. Because you recall that 2-3 days before this event, Femi Adesina was on here, Garba Shehu was on here, and they were disparaging international community of saying, we have our sovereignty, you can't do this for us, only for them to recount just a day to Christmas to say they have released Dansuki and what have you. What is the case? The man has always said he's ready to defend himself.
Well, Dan, do you agree that the federal government is just, this act by the federal government is belated? It's some sort of face-saving mechanism for them?
Yeah, I agree totally with Obani, and I've always been worried, really, whether or not the government is a government, you know, on the strength of law, or whether it's a government on the strength of bullets. You know, yeah, we do know that the president is a retired general. Obviously, his life, over half of his life or close to, would have been, you know, within the period of the military, whatever. So the orientation will be different. However, now that he has decided to occupy the presidency, the seat of the president through the ballot, then he must play by the rules. You shouldn't choose which order of the court to obey. As a matter of fact, when we talk about government, government is not about the executive alone. There are three arms. And for democracy to thrive, these three arms must work together effectively. And each of them must be given its due respect. And the only way there can be proper organization is where you have the courts play their roles and it is respected. But so far, this particular act of Dasuki's release and that of Showore, particularly the one of Dasuki, I feel strongly that this is pure injustice, because the length of time you have held this man.
4 years.
Yes, in spite of the various court, you know, orders granting him bail and all the rest, shows clearly that you are not even prepared for trial. It's not that the issue of I'm ready for my for trial that Dasuki is. I'm not sure the federal government is actually ready, because they choose what to obey. So assuming the court now even, you know, acquit him eventually, they could still decide, okay, so what I'm seeing from this particular, it looks like there's pressure from somewhere outside. You know, particularly this period that they are looking for loans here and there and the rest. Maybe somewhere they've been told that until you comply with the tenets of democracy, you would have this or that. Otherwise, I can't rationalize why you keep somebody who the courts have actually, you know, granted bail for 4 years. Then all of a sudden, you know, you are now doing a 360-degree turnaround to show that you are now a repentant Democrat, or how do we describe it?
Of which there are still some persons still being held.
So far, really, you know, the government has not done well in this regard.
I'm afraid we might have to leave it at that. Dan Ikere, thank you so much for joining us at this time. All right, you're watching TVC Breakfast, and it's time to take a look at the stories making the headlines in Nigerian newspapers. And I have with me in the studio a lecturer of the University of Lagos, Dr. Dan Ikere, and an in-house analyst, Obani Akinwale. Thank you, gentlemen, for joining us at this time, and Merry Christmas. We can only say it at this period. Yeah, Merry Boxing Day. So after today now, no more Merry Christmas, just a Happy New Year.
No, the season continues.
Until the year 2020.
Yes.
All right, so let's take a look at the Nigerian news headlines on the Nigerian newspaper. And we're going to be starting with the Blueprint. The Blueprint has, as its headline, troops for Christmas attack, kill 48 insurgents and arrest 3. As a rider, it has Boko Haram slays 6 in Chibok, abducts 2 women. That's what you find on the Blueprint newspaper. And on the Daily Times, we have, I hold no grudges against Buhari, says Dasuki. And he says, I'm ready to defend myself against allegations of money laundering, graft. That's what you find there on the Daily Times newspaper. And on the Daily Trust, we have 60 years after 40 megawatts Dadin Kowa hydropower ready for inauguration. A different story from what you have on the previous newspapers. This is what you find on the Daily Trust newspaper for this morning. On the Nation newspaper, this Boxing Day, we have as the header, how Buhari was swayed to release Showore Dasuki. And as a rider, I'm ready for trial, says the ex-NSA. Ohane is a youth. Seek release of Biafra agitators. That's what you find, the story, very long story on the Nation newspaper. And on the Daily Sun, we have a different headline which says anger over attack on Jonathan's home. As a rider, It's national shame, says Benue Governor Asilva Lion task security agents to arrest perpetrators. That's what you find on the Nigerian newspapers for this morning. But we're going to be looking at the anger over the attack on the ex-president Goodluck Jonathan's home. That was about 2 days ago, if I'm correct. And so, of course, we've had the president call the ex-president to, of course, express his sadness over the incident that happened. The soldier was killed in the incident. Some persons were injured in that same incident. Obani, let me start with you today. Looking at what has just happened, how worried are you concerning the security situation that we find ourselves, considering the army has over time told us that we have technically defeated Boko Haram on one end. The police have said that they are employing more personnel to, stem the tide of insecurity in the country. How worried are you with the insecurity situation in Nigeria?
Yeah, it's nothing new. Am I worried? Not really. When you have a system whereby you have less than 0.001% policing the entire population, you can't get anything less. I am too sure that the total number of Nigerian army troops, or the battalion as it were, is not up to 500,000. And you discover that when we have national elections, state elections, these same military personnel are the ones deployed to these zones. So you ask yourself, in a country whereby it's difficult for police to recruit 10,000 policemen per year, has budgeted about 37 billion naira to renovate the National Assembly when our security architecture is not renovated. You ask yourself, what do you get from a country whereby we solely depend on used naval boats from Pakistan, from US to police our water territories? You ask yourself, a country whereby the rifles being used by our military at the northeastern zone, you find out that is less compared to what the terrorists are using. You find a country whereby the way our police are being paid is terrible. If you go there to Ikeja Police College, you see the building where the police officers are staying. How much is their salary? You find a country whereby the only survivor for policing community is to collect 15 naira from the road transport workers on the road. So the saddening part of it is that if a just ex-president, just about 5 years down the line, could have an attack 100 meters away from his residence, not only is a national embarrassment, it's a shame for the entire security architecture, it's a shame on Bayelsa state government, because I'm aware that the state government there are funds given to security in that state. There are people that are meant to protect that environment. We are talking about President Jonathan because he's a former president. Is President Jonathan's life worth more than life of every other Bayelsans? So you find out that, so excuse me, in this country, we have not placed value on life. We have only placed value on frivolities like the National Assembly. I see no reason why we cannot use that 37 billion on our security. Then, as much as we still have less than 1 million policing, we have about 364,000 police officers, but policing 200 to almost 200 million Nigerians. That means an average of about 1 police to about 50 to 100 Nigerians will continue to get this. And again, like this, these are symbols.
But if I would hold,
right,
let's just hold up first. Right. Let's bring in Dan Ikiri.
Right.
Dan, persons have described this as a national shame to have this kind of attack on just a few hours to Christmas, an attack on the from a president's home, and we lost a soldier who used to guard the president. Now, persons have said that these are not just, it wasn't an attack on the ex-president. It was an attack just solely to steal the gunboats that the soldiers they had. What in the world are we facing when it comes to security issues?
Insecurity, that's what we're facing. We're facing serious insecurity. Now, the point is that, yes, this will not be the first time that those guys will be attempting. In some cases, they even succeeded in taking these gunboats. As a matter of fact, it has become a challenge in the area that for you to even attain some or to get some kind of recognition among your group, those militants, for you to be
and the confidence,
yes, for you to be so recognized. No, you see, they don't see. The way they look at things is not the way you are saying things, because it's like part of the honor they get. how many deadly, assignments have you carried out? For you to take a gunboat from those who are in charge of it, it shows you have superior, force. And that will give you some recognition. That might even elevate you that, oh, this should be our leader. So those guys who are into that, they are not doing it for fun. And we have been told, time and time again, that the territorial waters have become so terrible. You can't do business in Nigerian waters anymore. Several, vessels have been attacked. In some cases, completely seized, taken over by some of these, criminals. So, and how do you do that? You don't do that by machetes. You don't do that by knives. You do that by, the force of arms. So, if you are able to seize gunboats, the chances are that you are going to take some of these vessels, and some of them loaded with oil and the rest of it. So, it's money. It's real business. Now, for you to be, and interestingly, so many of these people are people who are used to the waters. They are so familiar with the terrain. They are people who can do all manner of things in water. And some of the ones that they are taking it from are not, they are just doing it as a profession. While, some of these guys actually grew up in that neighborhood. For you to be able to do anything, you must have superior force. Unfortunately, we don't seem to have that. Because as we speak, even to recruit you to any of these armed forces, the politics of tribe and all the rest will come in. You don't get the best. And even when you get the one you will assume to be the best, are they properly equipped? You vote so much money for security, and yet we don't see the effect. Now, what has happened has clearly revealed that we are not ready security-wise. If you like, tell the whole world that you have overcome Boko Haram. Boko Haram is just an aspect of it. What about the kidnappers? What about all manner of evil, social maladies happening all over? And this is a function of governance. For as long as you have government that does not prioritize life, but prioritizes other things that are not as important as life, I don't know what you keep those things for. At the time you finish building, renovating the National Assembly, and there are no human beings to be there, what is it meant for? So we must begin to place our priorities right, which is life first. Before you begin to talk of every other kind of essence, the life first. The government must see to that.
We're seeing that if you check the Blueprint newspaper in view, we're seeing that troops foil a Christmas attack, kill 48 insurgents. According to the troops, arrest 3 of the insurgents. And we also see that Boko Haram says that 6 kills 6 in Chibok, again, and then abducts 2 women. So, in the past days, we've seen abduction of women. We've seen abduction of aid workers in these parts of the country. But it's some persons would say that the government is not really responding to these attacks. We only see responses from the troops, from the Nigerian army, saying they've lost. Some persons have even said this facts are being revealed in the media.
Even get it. You see, when they maybe killed 10 insurgents, you might get the right figure. Sometimes it could be inflated even. But when they kill 10 soldiers, you hear only 1. That's the way the news is given. Because those who are giving you the news...
officer.
Yeah, well, Now, don't forget that there was just a while ago, a few days ago, the governor of Borno, there has been an issue. The man is telling you that as a governor of a state, the man is telling you certain territories are still being occupied, or Boko Haram is in charge of those territories. And the Nigerian army has completely
disagreed with that position.
So,
Obani,
that's the challenge.
Looking at what you've seen play out, the governor is saying that my state is not safe. So there are territories under Boko Haram.
All right, so looking at that terrain, I was opportune to be in that terrain for almost a year or 2. August, September, October is like they are raining and planting seasons. So you find out all those shrubs comes around and what have you. And it boils down to the same thing we keep saying. If we are budgeting 1 trillion for security, let us see the impact of that 1 trillion. Let me give you an example. If I walk into TVC studio now and I sit on your set, somebody will ask me, who are you? But in a case whereby you bring a Danladi from Alanfatori in Borno State to come and be DPO in Ketu, Lagos. Now, when he's coming, there is always a culture barrier, a language barrier, and it doesn't have the terrain. So there is no way you want to curb the insurgency in the north without putting a Fulani, a Kanuri man who knows how they practice their culture, who are these miscreants. There is no way you want to tame the problem we have at our waterways without putting the Ijos in the Nigerian Navy to ensure that they are able to monitor it. But a country whereby the IGP will post somebody from Calabar, which have different culture, different security architecture, to come and take over Lagos because it's intelligent, it will never work. A country whereby our best, let me give you an example. The current CDS, the current Chief of Army Staff, the people that are after them in military, they can never become CDS, they can never become. So it means that we have lost about 2 sets of intelligent military officers. Now, the same thing with Commissioner of Police, the same thing with AIGs. So what are the issues? The issues are clear. We know what to do, but unfortunately, our government seems to, by the time you begin to say, oh, you have attack at Biu, you are attack at Malam Fatori, there's an attack at Damaturu, how many hardware was lost? Said, okay, 100 rifles. Okay, we need to buy 100 rifles. And that is how people, see, it's only here you find out that after you have served as head of security agencies, you come out, you'll be driving SUVs and what have you. Where another climb, people come back to you for intelligence. How many of our ex-intelligence officers, DMI, whatever, do you see monitoring our security architecture in Nigeria?
Hopefully it will get better.
It will only get better if the SSS begin to get disciplined.
Yes.
And if all the, the various agencies, security agencies,
NIA, DSSS,
begin to operate as law-established agencies.
Hopefully the government is listening to all that you have said. I'm afraid we might have to leave it there. Dan Ekere, University of Lagos lecturer, thank you so much for your thoughts. And Obani Akinwale, thank you so much for your thoughts. And compliments of the season.
Thank you so much.
You're watching TVC Breakfast, and it's time to take a look at the stories making the headlines in Nigerian newspapers. And I have with me in the studio a lecturer of the University of Lagos, Dr. Dan Ekere, and an in-house analyst, Obani Akinwale. Thank you, gentlemen, for joining us on the program this morning.
Thank you. It's a
compliments of
pleasure
the
to be here.
season. Merry Christmas.
We hope that after this session, we actually do the merry.
It's Boxing Day, so of course, it's time to hang out with family and friends. But then let's take a look at what is making the headlines on the Nigerian newspapers. We're going to be starting with the Blueprint. And the Blueprint has, as its headline, in Biu, troops foil Christmas attack, kill 48 insurgents, arrest 3. Boko Haram slays 6 in Chibok, abducts 2 women. That's what you find on the Blueprint. And on the Daily Times newspaper, we have I hold no grudges against Buhari, says Dasuki. It says he is ready to defend himself against allegations of money laundering and graft. That's what you find. Find out the reason why he says he is ready to defend himself against the allegations on the Daily Times newspaper. And on the Daily Trust, you have 60 years after 40 megawatts Dadin Kowa hydropower ready for inauguration. Find out more about that on the Daily Trust newspaper. And on the Nation newspaper, we have how Buhari was swayed to release Shore Dasuki. I'm ready for trial, says the ex-NSA. Ohaneze youths seek release of Biafra agitators. More or less like Oliver Twist asking for more since they've released them, Dasuki and Shore. Well, on the Daily Sun, anger over attack on Jonathan's home. It's national shame, says Benue governor, as Silver Lion task security agents to arrest perpetrators. That's what you find on page 10 of the Daily Sun newspaper. Well, we're going to be considering what we have on the Blueprint. The Blueprint has as its headline, in Biu, troops foil Christmas attack, kill 48 insurgents, arrest 3, and as a rider you have Boko Haram slays 6 in Chibok, abducts 2 women. Of course, this is a plus for the troops, the Nigerian troops, foiling what would have been a deadly attack, on the part of the people, and of course killing 48 insurgents according to their report and arresting 3. Dan, let me start with you. These reports of Boko Haram launching at this time, this season, would have expected there was going to be a very quiet Christmas season this year, owing to the fact that we've not really had a lot of attacks, stories of attacks in recent times.
Yeah, that is correct. But, you know, Boko Haram, they are not sleeping. You know, they are not sleeping at all. They are very strategic in their operations, and they've not given up. So, you should, I expected, you know, very strategic plans for the season. You know, at a time like you begin to hear the IG and all security formations telling us of what plans they have for the period to secure people, secure, you know, event centers and all of that. So I expected that even more strategy should have been put in place, you know, concerning the North as well, because knowing that they want to discredit whatever arrangement you have, you will expect that they would have planned for this. So, but it's a good one that eventually they were able to, that is, assuming all that they said is correct, they were able to foil, you know, such an attack, kill the number of people they claim they have killed. But beyond this killing and the rest, do we really have security, you know, what you can call, you know, intelligence gathering? Do we really have it? Because if we do, I'm sure that they would have gone even deeper than what we already have. A scenario in which there will be exchanges of, you know, fire between the criminals
like
and
we saw in a particular video,
you know,
being
so we need to get beyond that level. And again, I'm still wondering, this Sambisa forest, are they really like the forest we have in the south here? Massive trees? Because I've not heard much of logging in the north, which shows that there are thick, you know, forests. I've been looking at, because the few pictures I've seen concerning this Sambisa forest, they look like desert kind of forest, you know, where those low-level trees, which are just like some of the settlements there. One house here, one in Kanuri, one, those kind of things. Is it so difficult to really pinpoint where they are? And in any case, sometimes we do hear they are not in any territory in Nigeria. Where are they? Are they not in, at least the territories they occupy? Are they not within countries? So are we saying that those countries are actually protecting them? How come it is so difficult to synergize and ensure that this thing is dealt with down to the road? Because these are people who operate from points. They are not spirits. So I'm thinking that they really need to work harder.
Even having the same armory,
if not superior
than
by
the
virtue of where
Nigerian
they are coming from and the kind of arms they have stolen from wherever.
Obani, looking at the security situation, a lot of persons have faulted the intelligence gathering strategy being employed by the Nigerian Army or the Nigerian Police Force, and saying that it's probably because they do not have the capacity or the funds to actually do all they are expected to do.
First, they don't have the capacity, absolutely correct. Do they have the fund? They don't appropriate fund for themselves. Let's just paint a scenario that in this studio, we have a cleaner that is not sufficient to clean the cups and the newspaper. Onus is on the management of this studio to look for additional cleaner to join with them, not the cleaner to look for another cleaner. Now, we understand we have issues at Sambisa, at Chibok, at Biu. Ask yourself, from Jonathan time till today, what has been the enrollment, recruitment into Nigerian Army? What has been the recruitment into Nigerian Immigration Services? What has been recruitment to Nigeria Customs Services? Now, what is the ratio of immigration officers, custom officers, Nigerian police, Nigerian Army, all paramilitary per person in Chibok, in Borno? So let's say Borno State, Sambisa as it were, we're meant to understand that is the size of Belgium plus Ireland, right? Now, what is required to police, effectively police that area? Is it that Nigeria as a country, we don't have capacity to provide those personnel? I think that is no. So we are using the same set of guys. Now, they have lost some officers in this attack. Have you heard anything about recruitment to Nigerian Army? In the last 8 or 9 years, the only recruitment we've ever had is about less than 38,000 to Nigerian police force. So we have been using the same set of people, underpaid, underfunded, no tools. You find out now that the campaigns we have for state governors now is that they buy motorcycle for police, they buy car for police, or they buy 13 APC for the police force. But we have never had, we have increased the number of personnel per person. And until we get to that moment, that point whereby we have enough personnel to service the available population who have this problem. That is one.
Well,
2, Chibok, as it were meant to understand that people ran to IDP, right? What was the government doing when returning those people back to IDP? Are we using the same security forces that are repelling the Boko Haram and what have you to protect the people back to their villages? These are questions that people at the corridor of power need to ask. See, IGP cannot do anything. IGP is an employee of the government. The chief of army staff cannot do anything. Okay. So the Ministry of Defense, NSA budget for all of them. So we need enough personnel. They need to be motivated. Like you mentioned the other time, the guys that want to go and hijack boat at Jonathan's house, you know how much those guys were funded, you know the equipment they have. Do we fund our military personnel? When you see American military personnel coming home, you will see the regalia, you will see the honor. What honor do you have in Nigerian recruiter? Most times we struggle to enter public transport, and they were not being respected.
And then when
they're
in public transport, you know,
they are demoralized in terms of their waverism. The personnel are not
especially
enough.
here in Lagos.
No, be regarded as staff. We will gladly want to do that for them. But the point is that they need to be funded to the point that they can actually end that honor. You know, we've not done well for them. At all. Although they've not done well for themselves too, because they were part of the problem. They are part of the problem. If they are not truncated our democracy at the time they did, perhaps we would have grown better than now. Absolutely. But now that they have created the problem, they should be seen solving part of it, the one that pertains to them. But the government should equally do what is due, what is right. Employ, you know, you must recruit. Over the years, people have been dying. Members of the Nigerian, you know, armed forces and the rest, people die. The ones we've lost to various, you know, attacks that we cannot mention.
And we are donating to missions in Africa. And what have you?
We must address this.
We have problem of guys in Somalia, peace missions, yet we don't have peace in Nigeria. We can't get people to come and do peace in our country. Yeah, we send people out for peace mission. Their families are suffering. People are dying every day. And yet you want anybody to go. So the problem is the system.
It's difficult to actually take risks for Nigeria.
Until the system motivates this guy, we will not get it right.
I'm afraid we'll have to leave it here.
Let's leave it here, but let them know.
Let them know that they are not treating those guys fairly. The police, the military, and what have you. Those guys are laying their life for Nigerians, but Nigerian is not treating them the way they are supposed to be treated. They must treat them well. This is 2020. If you want to stop your attack, stop this attack, motivate those guys to the point whereby nobody would dare say they want to come and attack their territory. But is Nigeria worth dying for?
Obani Akinwale, our in-house analyst, thank you so much for joining us on the program. And Danny Kere, who is a lecturer from the University of Lagos, thank you so much for joining us at this time. And
I wish the world well. Yeah.
Merry Christmas and a happy Boxing Day.
Thank you. Wish you the same.